What's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining another episode of Keeping Up Collecting. We have a very special guest this evening, Mr. John from Queen Studios from InArt, the man himself. Really, John, you don't even need an introduction because everyone in the community knows you by this point. You've done lots of live streams. You've done lots of, speaking engagements. You were at the Las Vegas event that a lot of people were at. So that was really cool also. But John, happy to have you back, bro. Thank you so much for joining and answering our questions this fine evening. How you doing, man? I know it's 8:30 in the morning over there for you.
Yeah, I'm all good. All good. Ready for a busy week. So things have been very busy the start of the year. So excited for the we're almost out of the third quarter. So so really excited for what's coming this year.
Well, everyone's really excited. I know about the InArt Jokers that are starting to arrive for a lot of different people. So everyone's really excited about that. Of course, new Queen Studios products that are going to be in the works. And of course, new InArt figures and all that type of good stuff. So it's an exciting time for you guys, man. So I appreciate you being here because, I can say a lot of people in the community are very excited about your products right now. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really exciting thing. So guys, I'm going to try to get to as many questions as we can in the chat, but I have 14 questions for John and we have about an hour to get through them all. So I'll do my best. I can't make any promises that I get to every single question, but we're going to try and we're not going to waste any time. That said, John, I want to ask you a first question here. So I know a lot of people have been wondering about the windows for the releases that have already been announced. So if we're talking about Gandalf, we're talking about Batman, we're talking about Aragorn and Pennywise, are those, as far as you're aware, still on schedule for their, scheduled release windows? Because I know Pennywise is supposed to be Q1 to Q2 of 23. Gandalf's Q3, I think. I'm not sure about Batman, but from what I remember, it's supposed to be the end of this year. Is that still on track to be released at those times?
Yeah, so I think what maybe confuses things is the batch system.
Okay.
And I think it's probably frustrating for a lot of collectors when they see one group get their figures or statues or busts, and then they have to wait. They say, "Oh, everyone's getting it. Where's mine? Where's mine?" And the batch system there's pros and cons to it. First of all, we want to get the first batch out by Q1, and that batch might not be as big, and that's where we get a lot of feedback, especially right now. So if there's any issues, we can tweak it and change it for later pieces. If it's just small things, if it's a big thing, obviously we need to take a bigger look. So right now, nothing's been said about delays. I think we are coming to the end of our Q1 of 2023, and there's not been much said about Pennywise. So I think if nothing's happening in the next few weeks, they'll probably have to make an announcement about that.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
Other than that, things seem to be on track.
And with the batch system, John, is there any sort of idea in how many are released in one batch, or I guess it depends on the figure?
It depends on the figures because QC is a big part of it. So if we made thousands and thousands, it's just hard to go through and make sure everyone's up to standard. So if we do it in batches, you can go through, check everything, check again, then ready and ship. So it's different every time because it depends what passes QC, what doesn't, what issues arise.
Gotcha. And, like you've said before on stream, some figures are more popular than others. The Joker figure, I know, is your most high profile figure, at least as far as I've heard in terms of a volume of orders. Pennywise was the lowest from what I remember. So it could be a little bit different. That could be less batches because it could be, 1,000 figures versus 15,000, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I think you're right. If there's no sort of production news on Pennywise, he would be the next one in line. He would probably get a delay announcement, I would assume. So yeah. So, but John, you think right now everything's on track, right? Everything's on track, but you're just not sure entirely.
Yeah, I didn't get. So we had an event this weekend in Guangzhou, in China. So the team was really busy with that. So I didn't really get a chance to get all the questions across. Usually, no news is good news. With Pennywise, I'll ask today and see if we can make an announcement, just to say it's on track or not on track. Because things have been a little bit quiet lately, so I'll ask about that. But usually, no news means we're on track. But there's only a few weeks left, right? So I'll follow up.
That's true. All right. Well, John, I want to ask you a follow-up question here because I don't know if you've seen some of the feedback, some of the criticisms, and I even put this in my review as a a piece of criticism and feedback here. The magnetic bases. So I don't know if you can speak to this. I don't know if this is user error on the part of collectors like myself, or maybe it's something with the magnetic bases that can be improved in the future. I want to share an image here, and I can't actually verify the authenticity of the person and whether it's real or not, whether they just threw their figure down on the floor. I don't know. I can say, though, John, that my figure took a tumble similar to this. And I don't know if this is something that it's user error. Maybe I didn't read the instructions well enough. But I'm wondering, John, can you speak to the future of magnetic bases for InArt? Because for a lot of people, they're working. For some people, they're not. So I don't know if maybe, there's something that can be improved there. Maybe the use of like a little peg in the base with a crotch grabber, but you can use the magnet if you want to. Maybe the magnet can be bigger. Have you heard anything from the InArt production team about any of this?
So I think the difference from last year to this year, just from the team's approach, is last year we were doing a lot of talking, telling everyone who we are, what we plan to do.
Gotcha.
And that's why we're on a lot more streams. This year it's more about listening, because we've got physical product shipping now. So it's less about, this is who we are, what we're going to do. We just need to listen. Okay, that's what's going wrong. This is what needs to be done. Hear the changes. So we didn't invent magnetic bases. Other companies have done it, but it's something that we really want to stick to because we think it's a big part of the display experience. When you've got like a crotch grabber or something like that, it really takes away from the display. There are people that have, like Justin, for example, when we had a live stream before, Justin did like the blizzard test kind of thing where he lifted it upside down.
Yeah.
And it held, the magnets held. And most of the magnets, 99% of the time, are strong enough. Sometimes it could be user error. When we're in Las Vegas, when we're in Thailand, it sometimes is a little bit harder to get it in the right position. So I think it's something we'll be looking at in the future. And if the instructions aren't up to scratch, then we need to get that feedback, and we can do digital versions and send those out, put them on our website so people can download them. So that's basically what we need to do now. We stand by that the magnetic basis is our best option. And I think there could be user error, but we can't speak for every case because I've seen photos online and we can't see all of the right stuff. And because it's a lot of hype around this figure, you don't know what's true and what's not. So we have to wait for the real collector feedback to come back, and then we can say, okay, each case might be slightly different. Sometimes it's user error, sometimes it's not. We have to listen to the customer. And if it's our instructions, then we need to issue some better and clear instructions.
Yeah, and that makes sense, John. The one thing that I would say, just from my experience with the figure, the magnet seems to be housed in the middle of the base for this specific figure. So I don't know if it was possible maybe to have the magnet spread out maybe across the entire base, because then I think it would hold it a little bit better than, your posing options are a little bit limited when there's like a couple small magnets in the middle, and that's where you have, and they're strong magnets, don't get me wrong, but when the figure goes backwards or forwards, maybe if your house shakes or whatever, or if it goes side to side for whatever reason, it tends to be a little top heavy and fall. So, but that's just been my experience. Other people have had great, no issues. But I can just say, like, I love the look of the base, but it's just always, it's just a little, like in my case, I've used the crotch grabber because I don't feel like I'm completely 100% comfortable with that base the way it is. Maybe it's user error. Maybe I'm not putting the feet down correctly, but I feel like maybe, I don't know if you could pass that along, like a bigger magnet, I feel like might be helpful.
Yeah, so
that's what
that's the main thing that I noticed when I was working on working with the production piece in Thailand, US. Sometimes it was a little bit tricky because it seems to be along the middle, right?
Right.
Right in the center of the base, and it could be tricky sometimes. It takes a little bit of playing around with, but once you've got it right, it's usually strong enough and it's okay. We did have some times where someone would walk past and someone would be a little bit not clumsy, but like someone would knock into the podium and it would fall, and that could happen, of course. And I think it could even if we had stronger magnets throughout the base, it could lean forward anyway. So that's always something that could happen. But if every case is different, right? So we need to look at it, get the real collector feedback, because I don't know about this one, but we've got your feedback and it's something we can look into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the answer on that one, John. And I want to ask, just as far as the magnets are concerned, because I've heard the criticism too with the magnets, because it's really, really cool and it definitely is an innovative thing insofar as like you said, maybe other companies have done it, but not super well. And it's not super mainstream. And like even Hot Toys, other companies aren't really doing this very frequently. But as far as the magnets for the hands, like mine work pretty well for the most part. You have to, just read the instructions. You kind of like peg them in and magnetize at the same time. So, for the diecast weapons, I heard some complaints about maybe the hand and the magnet not being strong enough to hold the Joker's diecast weapon. So is there, I don't know if there's a possibility, maybe, do you guys know of any InArt team production about, making the magnets stronger for the hands so they can hold heavier weapons? Like maybe you had a character with a die-cast sword or the Joker with a die-cast gun. Is there any sort of discussion about that going on?
Right now, the collecting feedback, because we started shipping in around December time, around then. So not a lot's been said. There's still, because we get the prototypes and we've been testing for a while. So we do know, and we've tried to overcome certain problems. We've chosen very strong magnets already, and it is like a peg magnet kind of thing, but it's not a peg as such. From our experience, we haven't had too many problems. So it could be it could be certain pieces might not be as strong. So it's hard to comment right now, but the biggest thing we're doing is collecting that feedback and analyzing and seeing what went wrong in that case. Have you had the same problem?
Yeah, a little bit, not too bad though with the die. I don't have my Joker currently holding the gun. And I will say, John, I just want to be clear about this. The figure itself is phenomenal. The only criticisms I had were, for one, maybe I'm just really dumb with this, but getting the head on the body was a little bit difficult. That was challenging. And you guys put out a video and that was amazing that you did that. But, getting the collar up and putting the head on the body, I was like, oh my God. Once I got it on, I was thrilled with how it looked. With the magnets, with the hand magnets, I was like, I don't know. I feel comfortable enough with it. But like you said, if you were to bump into the table or the display or whatever, I feel like it could fall, the hand. But I think people maybe just rely on the magnets. You also have to kind of, like you said, it's not a peg, but you do have to kind of like shove it in there. You have to really give it a nice push in there and let the magnet really stick. I've had a little bit of concern with that with the magnets on the hands. Right now it's no problem because I have them holding the knife and the card. But if I had them holding the gun, I would just be careful not to bump into anything because the magnets are strong, but they're not I don't, because you guys are Queen Studios first. The magnets on statues, they're obviously bigger, but those things are secure, and then this feels like a little less so. Maybe because it's smaller. I don't know.
We are using, that's why we're confident in the magnet strength, because we're using similar magnets.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So and it can hold polystone, and it can hold heavy polystone in some cases, depending on the character, right? So in most of the time, we've not had any issues. So with the Joker head situation, we did see that feedback. So that's why we created the video. So with this situation, maybe that connection might not be there. So it's very difficult to comment on every single case because from our experience, it's been fine. So maybe it's a case of showing people. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly and you have to play around with it. And that's maybe what we need to do next is to show this is how you get the right connection. And then in some cases, it could be just a fault, but we don't know until we get that individual feedback. So go to the InArt group, the Facebook page, Instagram, send us a message with the problems and we'll look into it.
Perfect.
But the bumping into things, I think most of the time, most people aren't lunging into their, their cabinets. So it's just usually when we had the displays in Las Vegas, Thailand, you got a lot of people walking around. But yeah, we've got glass cases in the office with the Joker and it's been fine. And it's been there for 3 or 4 months, no issues.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
So it depends. We can't comment on every case situation, right? And that's what people probably want for me to say today. But
I understand.
But it's hard. It's hard because there's so many. The thing is with figures, there's so many variations of poses. There's so many options. It's very hard to say, oh, this is the exact problem. So we'll just have to listen, and then if it's a general problem, we can create a video or an explainer to help.
Right. Yeah, and I totally understand that. Yeah, with the magnets, to me, if they were just a little bit stronger, I would be I feel a little bit safer because for me as a collector, maybe I'm a little bit paranoid. Like if something falls or I'm just a little worried about it. A crotch grabber, we know that thing's, like you said, it limits the immersion a little bit, but that thing is rock steady. It ain't going anywhere. But with a magnetic base, it's just, you got to make sure the feet are perfectly planted and, it looks so much more real, but you really, I guess, got to take your time and make sure it's on there, right? Because yeah. But like you said, with you guys have no issues. And there's been plenty of collectors who've been getting the Joker and been absolutely thrilled and using the magnetic base. I know me and a few others had some issues, but it just depends. Like you said, maybe it's user error, maybe it's the pose.
Like you said, it's not been done mainstream.
Yeah, no.
So maybe a lot of collectors it takes time to get used to it. Like if you get a new phone Like when people started getting smartphones, for example, that was like the next thing up. It takes time to get used to using it. And it could be that. I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but it could be that in some cases where you just have to get used to posing it a certain way, attaching certain things, because it's so different to before. And I think there's benefits to the pegs that other companies use, but the reason why we're not using that is because when the pegs go wrong, that causes a big issue as well. Like if you go online and you Google like replacement pegs, there's all sorts of forums and feeds. So we're trying to eliminate that, and there's going to be some cases where it's the user's got to learn, and we've got to help you guys to try and figure this out.
Yeah, that's understandable. Well, John, thank you for the clarification on that. I want to ask though, because there was some communication about this and then it sounded like maybe there was a backtrack on it. So I wasn't sure and I wanted to get your clarification on this. So are there going to be changes made to the phase 1 list that you guys put out a while back? Because I know, like I said, there was some communication at one point that there was going to be and then there wasn't. So I think people maybe are a little bit confused and we wanted to see if we get some clarification. What figures, for one, can we expect to see put up for pre-order soon? Because I know, like you said, you guys have been working very hard on the Joker and probably Pennywise and all your product releases and making sure everything is high quality, right? But, you know, are there going to be changes? Because I know people want to see a lot of these characters on the list and, of course, a bunch of others. But what figures can we expect to see soon? And is it going to be these ones on the phase 1 list?
Yeah, the honest truth is we probably got a little bit carried away. We got so many people asking us what we're making next, what we're doing next.
Right.
That we just said, right, here's the list. This is our phase 1 plan. The problem is that when you create plans, anyone that's ever created a plan knows that it doesn't always go to plan. Well, 99% of the time, nothing goes to plan. The key issue that we've got is realism in a lot of our pieces require actors' approval, and that causes delays. Figures as well, the back and forth between licenses cause delays. So everything on this plan will be developed, but the timelines are longer than we expected. And also we want to really focus on the quality and the feedback right now, especially with the Joker releasing. So maybe a few of these things might take a little bit longer, but the majority on that list will be made. And I think we teased Harry Potter last time, right? I don't know if you saw the teaser.
Yep.
And I saw the prototype in the office the other day. The early sample looks amazing, but we're waiting for actor likeness approval. So it's just, that's the thing, is this creating a figure. There's a lot behind the scenes that not everyone sees, so it's going to take some time.
Right. So Harry Potter was probably the most likely one to go up for
Next.
PO next, you would say, right?
Yeah, most likely. And then after that, we're looking. It's probably skipping a few questions, but
okay.
SDCC should be happening this year.
I'm gonna be there.
I'm
gonna be there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see each other there. That's the goal. We're working towards. We'll definitely be taking at least 2 or 3 figures that are globally licensed, and then we're hoping to take some more just for show, and that's the goal we're working towards.
Nice. That sounds amazing. And yeah, and there was also, John, a character that was teased also that I wasn't familiar with. I think it maybe was an Asian property. Is that right? It was, let me show the picture to you real quick. I'm sure you probably saw it or no, but it's this one. Can you speak to that one as well? I know people maybe were a little bit confused about that as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure with this one. I don't know. I saw them, they sent this to me to take a look at.
Yeah, it was interesting, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know this one.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because the NR team obviously has some tricks up their sleeve, but this is an interesting one. Yeah,
there are some Asian characters in the works, but nothing's majorly been said about that.
Okay.
What I've seen is Harry Potter's been worked on right now.
Okay.
And we teased that a little bit ago, so it's not any breaking news, but it's coming soon. And that one looks phenomenal, but. Yeah, that one I'm not sure. The thing is, I might have just been teasing something just to get some general response, see what people are thinking, and we'll probably make it a little bit later down the line.
Right. It's understandable. And John, we got a quick question here from Community Arcade. Is InArt still planning to do the 2022 Batmobile?
As far as I know, yes, but it's going to take a little bit more time. I think we want to make it perfect. They want to use as many authentic materials as possible, and nothing, like I said before, if no news is good news, they're still working on it, but there's no real timeline on that. I know there's a lot of people making vehicles, so if we're going to stand out, we're going to make it special as well.
Yeah, It's understandable. Well, we shall see on that one. So I want to ask another question here, John. So will InArt expand its production team to release figures faster for collectors? Because I know this is something that you guys have really focused on, the quality, like you mentioned, the QC and the realism of the figures. That's been a huge sticking point for you guys. So I know people, one of the mild criticisms that people can have, and you can see it in the chat, is the batch system, right? The system of, also for one, not having a ton of figures up for pre-order at once, going kind of slow and deliberate, but delivering super high quality. So how do you guys balance that? Is there going to be sort of any scale in the production team to meet the demand? Because you guys are getting pretty popular pretty quickly.
Later down the line, this will be something we'll do. But at the price point we're selling at, we had some, I don't know what the word, a lot of people taken back by the price point.
Sure.
And they're saying, why is it more expensive? What makes this so different to a Hot Toys or a 3.0 or Asmus, something like that? There's a lot of companies making great figures. For us, if we start rushing into mass production at the current price point, there could be more issues. And I think we've got to take it step by step. There will be a point in time where we'll be able to speed things up. But right now, as I mentioned, this year is not about talking, it's about listening and improving things. There's no point in rushing into lots and lots of pre-orders and then you guys have got so many problems or there's so much feedback for us that we just don't have time to correct it. I think we've got to take it step by step because we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, that's understandable. And like at the price point you guys are charging, you also have to deliver high quality because people are expecting it because they're paying for it. So, that's more than fair. I mean, and you guys with the Joker, like I said, a few gripes aside, the figure is phenomenal. So it just, the magnets and the magnet bases, they're not, like they can maybe just use a slight little upgrade, but overall as a figure, the figure looks alive on the shelf. That Joker is incredible, so I do want to give you guys kudos on that one. The first figure, as far as I've seen, people are very happy and you guys have delivered. So
yeah, the majority of feedback's really good. But there are cases where there's some disappointments and it's hard to comment it because everyone's got a different problem. So it's not one specific thing. There's different things. So we don't know until we look at the actual feedback exactly what it is. Yeah. So that's why we're taking things a little bit slower.
Yeah, it's understandable. And we got guys, like I said, I'll try to get to as many of these as I can. We got a super chat here from Slow and Low. Is InArt concerned with its brand, with Toys Wonderland selling its figures? I pre-ordered through them and it has been a nightmare. John, I don't know if you can speak to that. Can you?
I can't really speak to that because, as we mentioned before, we don't really directly working with them. So there are going to be sellers that will be carrying our stuff. And there's going to be issues with certain sellers. Even we've got sellers that we work directly for, Queen Studios, for example, where sometimes it doesn't always go to plan. So as a company, we need to look at what's going on and try and make changes that help the consumer. And right now, the key thing that I'm working on with everyone else is licensing. Once we've got global licensing, that'll get rid of a lot of that. Once we've got North American, European licensing, that's what we're working towards. Because right now, it's very difficult to solve a lot of these issues because it's out of our hands. We're not directly working with them.
Yeah, that's understandable. And that's why we're going to ask that question because let's see here. I wanted to ask John, I'm glad you led into this one. How close is InArt to acquiring a global license for Warner Bros. Properties? Because that seems to be what you guys are really making right now because the license is available to you guys and a US or European distributor. I know you might have to play this a little bit close to the chest, so I understand if you can't fully answer it because there may be competitors watching or whoever else. But is there sort of work toward progress being made towards a global license and a distributor officially?
Global might be challenging, but we're looking at European, North American always. I don't think that's any secret. Any company out there that's making figures wants to sell in North America and Europe because they're even Southeast Asia. The biggest markets are Southeast Asia, USA, and Europe. North America is the biggest by far because this is the culture. This is where all this stuff comes from. And then Europe, of course, developed countries, and then Southeast Asia, the collecting hobby is growing really fast. That's the reason why we went to the US last year to display the figures. There were some criticisms, people saying, well, why are we showing the figures if we're not selling them there? Well, we weren't there to sell, we were there to show. We wanted to show the licenses and all the companies take the real products and say, this is what we're capable of, this is what we can do. And there's demand. Can we figure something out? The thing is with Warner in particular, there seems to be a lot of chopping and changing over the last couple of years, and it's affecting the whole business. Like, for example, if you look at the movies, Henry Cavill's gone.
Right.
All sorts of crazy stuff, and that's having a knock-on effect on the whole consumer business. So it's like we take 2 steps forward and then 1 back, 2 steps forward, 1 back. So right now we're not got any deals done, but we're in discussions, and we'll just see how it goes. We do have some more like under the, like not the top licenses, but we've got some other popular characters on the way, and they will be global. And then we're planning on doing more, but that's why we did the survey last year. We're looking through that. We're trying to see what we can get, and we're working towards that.
Okay. Is there anything you could share right now, or is it still kind of secret?
Everything. I think we've already told people. The Michael Jackson one.
Yep.
That, because that's not been done for maybe 10 years, maybe or more, from the first few figures that were released. We've also got the Dune figure as well. So they're the ones that we're looking towards, and then there'll be something that'll follow later in the year.
Nice. That sounds super exciting. And I wanted to ask too, John, for the statue collectors out there. I know it's not all InArt tonight. There's a little bit of Queen Studios in there. So Queen Studios, I know you guys take feedback, you do surveys, you do polls, things like that, asking people what kind of statues they want made. So what characters, though, are you guys looking to create into statues, either whether it be half scale, bust, third scale, quarter scale? What's coming down the pipeline for Queen Studios? Because I know people are really looking forward to your statues as well.
Yeah, so the thing is with the statue and busts right now is that the industry is slowing down a little bit. So if we look, I think 2020 seemed to be the peak of the industry, like for a while. So that's when the pandemic hit. A lot of people are at home, they can't travel. Stimulus checks are coming through.
Yep.
And people were pre-ordering, and I think all the companies got a little bit overzealous, and we started making a lot more. And this last year, the economies globally, there's so much uncertainty right now. Like, there's 2 banks in America that have just, who knows what's going on with there. We don't know what effect that's going to have on the global economy, but there's inflation, all these issues. So we've got to take that into consideration. So we've really been looking at our line lists with Marvel, with Warner, DC, and we're trying to trim it down a little bit again and go back to our roots. What are we the best at? So it's going to be more busts and more silicone, because that's who we are. That's how we started. And I think half scale, I think there's a question in here about half scale. That scale hasn't done as well because it's very big. It takes up a lot of room. So I think we might be looking to scale down a little bit. And that's the main plans for this year. In terms of what statues, I think there's a question about Terminator as well. So we do have the Terminator bust, the 2.0, that is coming out in, hopefully by San Diego Comic-Con, and that should have a robotic, some parts robotic. I'm not sure which yet. I think they want to have the shotgun over the shoulder with a robotic arm so that the gun can lift up and over, but we're not sure if that'll pass, so we're working on that.
Dude,
so
John, that's exciting.
Things. Yeah. So a lot of exciting things, but we probably won't have as many releases, but we're focusing on quality again.
Okay. So it sounds like you said you guys are going to stick to what you're really good at with the bust, silicone bust, and you know, the statues, maybe they're silicone, but the half scales, like you said, don't do as well. So maybe would quarter scale be a possibility for you guys, what you've done with Loki and eventually Scarlet Witch and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're looking into that. I know I've got to speak with Chasen as well, because he's a big half scale collector and he keeps messaging me. So recently I've been told about the changes. So maybe he's not happy about the half scale. We do have one half scale coming, which is the Hulk Buster. And the half scale Hulk Buster,
Yep.
That will be 1-to-1 size in terms of height, but it'll have a big base. So that one's going to be pretty awesome. But other than that, it's going to be smaller stuff and some busts. So we're also looking at some more bust license in the US.
Okay. So the half scale Loki's probably not happening then, it sounds like.
It's something we'll look at later down the line, but this year we want to scale down a little bit.
Gotcha.
But I know that the Loki and Doctor Strange, a lot of people ask that in half scale. But right now it's not in our original plans, but we've got the scale approved, so there's no reason why we can't do it a little bit later down the line. But we want to scale down a little bit this year.
Understandable. Well, we got a super chat from Don Matan. Will InArt include more magnets on the bases to give collectors better posing options? He did answer this a little bit, but John, I don't know if you want to field this one again real quick.
Yeah, so that's based on what your suggestion was, right? So I
Yep.
think if that's what a lot of people are saying, it's something we need to look into. The must, I don't know the exact reason. I can ask again why we chose one line in the middle, but I'll ask, and I'll also bring this feedback up that this is what a lot of people are asking about. It gives more posing options.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. Just because you guys are really good about hearing feedback and reacting appropriately. So yeah, that's really great. Let's see. And I know we talked about this. You said the Terminator bus, but I know people are going to ask, and I saw someone ask in the chat already, a Terminator line for 1/6 for InArt. I don't remember if this was talked about at the Vegas event or not. I know you talked about maybe statues. Is there any plans to do Terminator statues like third scale, half scale, quarter scale, or maybe 1/6 InArt figures?
So our initial plan is we're going to start with a bust, and we're going to work with the licensor with the bust, and then if things go well, and hopefully they do, we can start discussing other statues and potentially figures later down the line. But right now, we're basically working towards July, and that's where we're hoping to show the Terminator bust. If not, if there's any delays, it could be October, because that's when our next big event is. And we're hoping to do more Terminator because it's one of our most favorite franchises and movies.
Yeah, John, Terminator 2, I can tell you, bro, Terminator 2 would be really exciting for people, especially 1/6, because I know most of the chat is going to be 1/6 collectors. But dude, trust me, if you guys made real leather Terminator with die-cast parts and maybe like an endoskeleton that was fully die-cast or something, you guys would knock it out of the park. And I think that would be a very hot IP, which I'm sure you guys know. So yeah. So it's just it's interesting. That's why I love talking to you, because I never had any idea how hard it is to acquire a license. Like, it's so difficult.
There's just so many different scenarios. That's the difficulty in it. It's a very strange industry. Like there's no one path to success. There's no one path to do it, because every company's got their own different ways of doing things. They've all got their own different rules. For example, Warner seemed to allow more companies to make the same things. Marvel have their rules where if someone's making it in a certain scale, it doesn't always make sense for you to make it. Don't have competing things at the same time. And then other companies, it's very difficult to answer, because they've all got the different ways to do things and they've all got their own strategies. So we've got to work around them, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, understandable. Well, I wanted to ask you, John, because I know you mentioned coming to the States for San Diego Comic-Con. You guys are going to be here for SDCC. Are there any other events you guys are coming to the US for? Are you going to do another event like you did for Vegas? Because I kind of regret not going, to be honest. I should have gone. It just got really expensive, and I was like, I don't know if I could do it, but I should have gone. I kind of regret not being able to see it. Is there going to be anything like that in the near future?
We want to. This year might be a bit challenging, because we've got SDCC we want to work towards, and then the biggest event in China is called Wonder Festival. You might have heard of it before. There's one in Japan, right? That's the most famous one.
Yeah.
And the one in China is also big. So this year we're putting a lot of our resources into Wonder Festival. So a lot of new figures will debut in Shanghai. So the benefit of that this year is that if you want to come, anyone wants to come, China's now completely open. Tourist visas are now processing. So we'll be allowing, the government will be allowing more international visitors, and we'll be accepting and expecting more visitors. So we're working towards that.
Nice.
With those two huge events, it's going to be difficult to plan something at a larger scale than Vegas. So we might do something similar this year. If we can, we're going to try. NYCC is unfortunately the same time as Wonder Festival this year, so we might not be able to go to NYCC. The plan is to have go to like SDCC and have a small event, NYCC have a small event, but I don't know if it's possible this year. So it's a long-winded answer, but it's something we really want to do, because we really enjoyed it, and I think that the feedback's really good. So
yeah,
this year might be challenging.
Understandable. Well, we got a new channel member. Thank you so much, Collectibles Chats, for joining. And Daniel Q, but I think he put his question right below. So Daniel, thank you so much. Queen Studios has made Marvel statues. Are there any plans in obtaining the Disney license, possibly for Star Wars / Marvel in 1/6? What do you think, John?
Of course, that's something we want to do. but
It's just hard. Yeah,
it's just hard. Licensing is so difficult. We could get more Disney licenses in the future, but right now, the key ones, Star Wars, Marvel, there's no chance right now. So maybe in a couple of years' time, that's something we'll get, but who knows? But we really want that.
awesome. Yeah, I think everyone really wants it too. It would be great. So, John, can you speak to the edition sizes for the 1/6 figures in production? So there are a lot of collectors out there, who value the exclusivity that a collectible can offer them. So I don't know if you know any numbers. Has there been sort of any hard defined numbers about these productions, for these figures that you can speak to?
Yeah, we do. I know a few of the numbers, but I'm not sure what the plan is with those guys if they want to release those numbers.
Gotcha.
But there will be some pieces that have got hard edition sizes. For example, the 2019 Joker, that's most likely going to have an edition size. So I think it's something we'll look at because, like you mentioned, the collectabilities for some people, especially at our price point, is important. So I think it's something we'll make a decision on and like a firm announcement later down the line.
Yeah, that's understandable. And I know you've said pretty much since the beginning that Joaquin Joker is going to be limited and it's going to be expensive because the licensor dictates that. So it has to be like a high-end collectible. So that's probably going to be a 2-pack now.
I don't think they've not made that decision yet because it's still in the works. And I'm not sure if there's going to be an announced edition size or it's just going to be capped. I'm not sure. They've still not said that either. But it has to be around $1,000 when you convert to USD. So it's going to be a little bit pricey, but of course we want to add more to make that worth the while. So we might be adding more backgrounds, more props, more that kind of thing that will make it up to that value. And then we'll be looking at other things to make it more unique and collectible.
Gotcha. Okay. And I was going to ask you about that anyway, but it sounds like, so that figure's still in production, right? The Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yeah, that's a big one for us. We really want to work hard on that because the other Jokers that we've made before have had such a really good reception. We really want to work on this. And the new movie trailer looks pretty good. So.
It does. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. I love that 2019 Joker film, and I can't wait for a 1/6 scale licensed representation because there's been some third-party ones you've probably seen that have been okay, but obviously what InArt would do would be vastly superior. So that is a much in demand character, as you know. So yeah, I can't wait for that one. But I know there's a lot of collectors who want to know, John, too, about the vehicles because like we've mentioned, InArt has talked about this a little bit before. Is there still plans for InArt to produce 1/6 vehicles? I know there was the Bat Cycle from the 2022 Batman film, the Batmobile, the DeLorean. Are there other vehicles in production? Are you guys still planning to do those vehicles or maybe just trying to figure out how to make them right now?
I think the thing we're working on now is what you didn't see behind the scenes before is that maybe 2021, there was a lot of work behind the scenes on prototypes for these figures. So we're working for around a year before we released anything. With the vehicles, we've had not as much time to work on that. So there's a lot of prototyping, there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of how do we scale it? That's a lot of going on. And there's a lot of other companies that are making vehicles. So it's got to be, and it's not like realism with a vehicle. You can't make a really amazing face sculpt. That's what we do, right? We make really good face sculpts and we try to beat what's out there and try to make it as realistic as possible. With a vehicle, it's a little bit harder. So I think they're working on, that's the feedback I've been given, that they're just working on the vehicles to make them as high quality as possible, as realistic as possible, because that's what we can do.
Gotcha.
It's just going to take time.
Yeah, so those probably we wouldn't expect to see anything like that this year. Probably maybe next year, I would assume.
If this year, it'd be towards the latter end, maybe early next year. But right now, there's nothing majorly been said about that because it's something that every time I asked about it, they say, yeah, you're still doing it. So right. I think it's just a lot of prototyping and a lot of work behind the scenes.
Gotcha. Okay. And if there is an early one, maybe, I don't know if you can speak to it. I think the Bat Cycle you guys said would probably be first, right?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier to work on because it's smaller in terms of size. But there's nothing really been said in terms of firm dates.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I guess we shall see. So, John, I want to ask you too, and a lot of people want to know about this one. How deep is InArt planning to go into Lord of the Rings and the Game of Thrones lines? Because you're obviously going into DC, Joker, and everything else in between for Warner Bros. That you can get your hands on that's popular. But as far as Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, I know some of these figures have been announced already, but there's a lot of characters in these lines that are very popular that have not yet been announced. Do you guys plan to go pretty deep into these two very popular lines?
Lord of the Rings will be going deeper for sure. There'll be more characters on the way. Game of Thrones, from the plan I've seen, it's not as deep. It's going to be a few of the key characters. I think we might mention Jon Snow before. There'll be a few other like popular characters, and then it's a case of listening to feedback and what people want. If there's a demand, we'll make more. We want to be in like a long-term partnership with Warner as well, so we can keep the license rolling, so that we can come to these characters. And I think with Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, they're so iconic, and so you could pick them up and watch them at any time, and it doesn't feel dated. So I think there's no huge rush to do it right now. So we want to make sure that we can work and make everything as high quality as possible, and then later down the line we can release more.
Yeah, because I know the Daenerys was on the phase 1 list, and a lot of people are wondering about that one. And Jon Snow, for me, those two would be automatic purchases pretty much. And yeah, there's some Game of Thrones characters that you guys have probably researched that are pretty popular. I think that would do pretty well. But Lord of the Rings, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Would Sauron be possible, you think? Because he's very big, a lot of armor.
I think anything's possible, but it's can you do it justice?
Right.
Like you said, it's quite big. There's armor. What's the materials we're going to use? So it's going to take longer. So it's something that we're going to have to look at in more detail. It's going to take a lot more time. But if it hasn't been done, which I don't think it has, right?
Yeah, there's a statue 1/6 from Weta, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in figures, it's not really been done from what I know. So
no,
it's going to take a little bit more time.
Right. That's understandable. Would you guys ever do sort of like a power pose 1/6 statue type deal, or would it have to be articulated for you guys?
I think in art, it'll have to be articulated. There's no reason why Queen Studios couldn't look at it, because we've released some 1/6 statues over the weekend from anime. Nice. So it's something we could look at later down the line.
That would be dope, though. Yeah, if you labeled it Queen Studios, if Sauron couldn't be a figure, you could make a statue. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty cool. That's the plus of having a statue company and a 1/6 figure company together under the same banner. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. But John, I wanted to ask, and I know there's some questions about this, and guys, this is our last question. So I'm going to get through as many questions in the chat as we have time for, but I want to ask this, John, because I know now since you guys, the InArt team has experienced the production process, what 1/6 entails with figures, right? Is there any sort of realistic possibility that video game licenses are explored? I know you've said before that they're a little bit easier to access in terms of acquiring the license, but you guys got your hands full with so many different movie licenses, Game of Thrones, and for film or for TV rather, and Lord of the Rings, and so many other things. Are video game licenses like a realistic possibility for InArt?
It is possible. I don't think this year though, because we do have some anime planned for InArt. We've got Michael Jackson, as I mentioned. We've got a lot of Warner properties like Lord of the Rings. We've got Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, DC. So there's a lot on our plate right now, but we know that there's a lot of gamers out there, and it's something we'd like to work on. I think a lot of people are suggesting Last of Us, either the HBO series or the game. But I think sometimes with the games, it's like first mover advantage. They are easier to get, but if you get in too late and all the markets are taken, it's not always as easy. So we're looking to go global with a lot of licenses. So if it's not possible to get the global license, we might hold off a little bit and maybe revisit later.
Yeah, it's understandable. Well, guys, I'm going to go through and try to grab some of the good questions. I know Dinesh had asked the question, John, can we expect any more anime statues? But I don't know how to pronounce this, besides the Saint Seiya?
Seiya.
Yeah, is that right? So. Okay.
Let me think. We got the Jujutsu Kaisen. We've got one statue that released from that, and we've got Saint Seiya, and then we also released the King of Fighters bust at the weekend. Other than that, not a huge amount. We'll see how these go and if there's a demand. We did see in a comment someone was saying, why are we bothering? Tsume are already amazing. So we'll just see what people ask for and see how successful everything is, and we can look at more anime as well.
That makes sense. Well, Revenge of the Sith asks, it's InArt planning to go deep with the Harry Potter line. Is it just going to be Harry, or are you guys going to go deeper?
Well, there's only... What characters would you want? I don't know how deep you can go. There's the main three.
Right.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
Well, because maybe like a Dumbledore or Voldemort. Maybe. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the hugest Harry Potter fan, but I know there are a lot of Potterheads out there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the movies, and I think there's probably actually that when I said that, maybe I could correct myself. There are quite a few you can do, but
Right.
I'm not sure how many. Yeah, I don't know how many of them are collectors and we're going to buy. So I think
Right.
we're going to start with the key characters and then see. I think that's the plan we're going to go with a lot of things. Start with the key characters and then see how deep we can go.
Yeah, understandable. Well, SB Mass, what have been the biggest hiccups noticed in the release of InArt's first figure? Maybe the magnets we talk about. Is there anything else you guys have noticed?
There's not really one thing. There's lots of small things here and there. I
Mm.
think with statues and busts, it's usually common problems. Like it's one specific thing. Like we've had some hiccups with with Queen Studios before, and we know, oh, it's this. With figures, it's a little bit harder because there's so many points of articulation. There's so many different things. The base seems to be the biggest thing we've had the feedback about, but other than that, there's a few things you mentioned today. But there's always hiccups. Nothing ever goes smoothly. But as long as the vast majority is okay, and it's just like a smaller issues here and there, we can try and handle those and tweak and change and improve over time.
Yeah, it's understandable. Well, another question from Rick005. This talking about the old DC universe, I guess now it would be Batfleck, Cowboy
Yeah.
Superman, and Gal Wonder Woman. Are there still plans to do those, John, even though you guys know that old DC is kind of being, brushed aside? What's the plan there?
Yeah, I don't think there's any changes on our side. We still, from our point of view, we really like Cavill as Superman. Ben Affleck, Batman, there's a lot of fans of his. And also Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman's really good as well. There's no major changes. There's been a lot of people asking when we release a Superman bust, why are we bothering when Henry Cavill's not Superman anymore? But that's not going to be the case forever. Like the Christopher Reeve Superman's really popular to this day. So it doesn't change it. Those movies still exist. So we'll still look at doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's understandable. Well, Marco from 16Fix is asking, is the Bale Batman going to be a 2-pack? Give us Begins and Dark Knight, and you'll have a lot of our money. So do you know anything? Has that been finalized yet, John?
The 2-pack situation, I think it's going to be more optional than it was with the Joker.
Gotcha.
So that there's going to be cases where you're going to have more options to purchase. For example, you can pair this with this, you can have a 2-pack and you can get this, but it's not going to be like you have to get the 2-pack. I think that's the line we're going to go down. In terms of Batman Begins, I don't think there's a plan for that. I think it'll be the Dark Knight first because we've released the Dark Knight Joker. So when you're pairing them up, you want to pair those two together. So I think that's the line we'll go down. But there are slightly different bat suits for each movie. So I think later down the line, we'll come back and look at Begins and Dark Knight Rises, right? That's the other one.
Yeah, right. Dark Knight Rises. And I think, John, it was important for you guys to probably experiment, right? With the Joker that you first did, making it a 2-pack for the Rooted. You listen to the feedback and then you decide, for the future ones, whether you want to do it again or not. And it sounds like you want to give more options.
Yeah, the thing is, you've got to think of an idea and then you're going to try it. And if it doesn't work, then you've got to maybe listen to people and change it. If it works, stick to it. You've got to be selective sometimes with feedback, but the overwhelming majority was if this was a 1-pack or I could have had the option, it would have been better. And so that's why I probably made that change.
Understandable. Well, we got a super chat. Thank you so much, Caleb Zane Kelly. Would love to see InArt tackle the Witcher game. So that would be pretty cool, John. But I know you said video game licenses may be on the back burner for the moment, right?
Yes, back burner at the moment. But The Witcher, again, that's another one we've seen statue companies do really well on. So I think there's something we could look at later down the line. But to answer the previous questions or to go back to that, right now we want to really focus on quality, make sure if there's any problems, we can address that now so that we can just continue to build on our success and make better and better figures. So we don't want to overdo it right now.
Yeah, that's understandable. And I have some other questions for you here, John. I know someone was asking, Revenge of the Sith was asking again, how does the actor likeness approval process work? Do the actors get to look over the figures in hand or are they just sent pictures? How does that normally go?
Again, that's different for different licenses because they have different contracts. So apparently for Lord of the Rings, each movie has the actor has a different contract for likeness.
Oh,
so
really?
they might get a different rate for each movie and they've got a different agreement for each one because I think the first Lord of the Rings, a lot of those actors, if you look at them, were unknown. So when they come back for the second one, they've got a bit more bargaining power. So I think they've got a little bit more like say. So most of the time, I know we're not sending many prototypes because that's going to cause massive delays. I think a lot of the time it's pictures. But with our Michael Jackson figures, we have to send, Michael Jackson's not around, of course, but we have to send the figure to the US licensor who's managing the estate. And I'm guessing it's the family that will look and say, yeah, this is okay. But with Marvel, DC, because they've got a big operation, you can just do it on high resolution pictures and lots of angles.
Okay. Yeah. And I know someone's asking too, DK, impossibilities of doing the 2 versions of Alita. Do you guys have any plans for Alita? Because I know you're doing the life size for her.
Right now, the licenses are coming to an end at the end of March. And we really like the guys at Lightstorm. We went to visit those guys in the US. So that's James Cameron's like studio. And I think it's something we'd like to look at again. He's got our bust in their office, right next to his office. So James Cameron's office there. He apparently is in New Zealand most of the time because that's where Weta is, and they do a lot of their 3D visual effects. But it's there. So I think Alita is something that we really, really like that movie, and we want to develop more of this. But not now, maybe next year, year after.
Yeah, and I know Henry was asking, John, is the Dune line still something you guys are pursuing? Are you just doing the Timothée Chalamet figure and that's it? Or are you just going to do more characters from Dune?
We've got more in the works, but the Paul Atreides, which is the Timothée Chalamet character, he's our first one. So again, we'll just build from there. But I think there's a lot of really good characters, a lot of good actors in that movie. But I think when the second one comes out and there's more interest in it, I think we can start to develop more.
Okay. And I know, John, did you mention about the anime licenses? I know for statues, you guys have some stuff in the works, but as far as 1/6 and statues both go, is there any other sort of anime licenses like Dragon Ball Z or even maybe Attack on Titan that you guys are, have acquired or looking to acquire?
Dragon Ball Z, not yet, but that one comes up a lot, and we know it's really popular in US, Europe, and Asia. That's one of the big ones. We do have another really popular one right now, which I don't want to say because the team are trying to keep it close to the chest. But it's a really popular anime that right now. So we're going to be hopefully releasing something, if not by San Diego Comic-Con, by October. That's when we'll have a lot of showcases.
Okay. And that's, I don't know if you can say, but maybe more statue than InArt.
No, that'll be InArt. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's InArt. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Okay. That's exciting. Okay. Well, I'm excited about that. I watched too much anime, but there are a few things here and there that I have watched. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. Is it possible for InArt to tackle any Matrix figures from movies 1 through 3? So I know you guys, John, talked about the Matrix, the Neo from the new Matrix. Is there any consideration for doing, the OG trilogy for Matrix?
Yeah. Matrix is something that we've worked at, both statues and figures. And I think we're pretty good at the likeness now. It's just, again, development timelines, other plans. So the Matrix is something that we'll look at, probably 1 through 3, like you mentioned. Probably start with 1, because that's the best, I think, in many people's eyes.
Yeah.
The 4th one wasn't what we expected. I think it's a decent movie, but not to the level as the first one and the second and third. So I think that's why we held back. John Wick, again, is another one that a lot of people asked about, and we spoke with a licensor. We could maybe get it, but I think there's some other companies working on John Wick right now, so we just let them take it for now. And we'll work on
We need John Wick, John. We need John Wick for InArt. Or statues, really, but we need it for InArt specifically, for sure. Yeah.
That's what I said. I'm hoping to persuade them, but I know that there's other companies working on John Wick right now, so I think we'll hold him back.
And, because the new movie's coming out, I think, this coming week. So, and it's got rave reviews. It's supposedly incredible.
I saw a lot of talk online that's really, really good. So I'm hoping we'll change the mind once the movie comes out.
Dude, that'd be a dopo for me, John, because the first 3 are incredible. Honestly, you could pick any one of the first 3 as the best because they're all amazing. So I can't imagine what the 4th one's going to be like. It's almost 3 hours long, too. It's supposedly still amazing. So you guys got to do that one, man. That's my one request of the evening. Got to get John Wick.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but John, we got a super chat from Daniel Q. Are there any plans for the Alien line? Thank you, Daniel.
There were. We were hoping to get more Alien statues down to 1/6, but that license, because I think they're working on Alien and Predator, is owned by Disney now, since they bought out Fox. I think they've got plans later down the line. So we were told by the licensor that they're not looking to develop anything new right now. That if we go back later, there's more chances. So right now we're just waiting for our opportunity, and hopefully that will arise soon.
All right. Well, I know Evil Sneaker is asking, are there any chance for another round of orders for Joker Road to 2-pack? I'm assuming that's probably closed, no?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of, again, maybe the hiccup question was probably the way that's probably the better answer, is the way the first release went down. There seemed to be a lot of confusion over the windows, the pre-order times, and also when we went to Las Vegas and when we went to Thailand, there were some people said that we were reselling the Joker again, but it wasn't us. So I think what a lot of these sellers do is if they think something's going to be hot, they'll order a lot and then they'll continue to sell once the window's closed. And that's out of our control. So when we went to Las Vegas and then when we went to Thailand, there's a lot more interest when people see the real figure. So what a lot of the sellers will do is, if it's more eyeballs on the product, on the figure, and people are interested, they'll say, oh, we've got more stock available. That's not us, that's them. If they've ordered it, we've closed our window. We're going to make what we're going to make. So I think with the Joker, we don't really want to go back because that's going to upset people. We want to say, okay, this is our cutoff point. Once we've got the money, once we've been told this is the orders, that we're going to start production and we're going to make that many.
Okay. Yeah, that's understandable. And I know we got a couple more questions. We got a couple more minutes here, but Felder Burns 83 said, with Pennywise being a limited run, is there any chance to do other limited horror figs? Is this kind of a one-off experiment for the horror line, or are you guys going to do more horror, you think?
We like horror as a genre, but the sales right now, they're pretty good for the genre, but not as big.
Right.
So I think it's something that will develop here and there along the line. But it's maybe once we can get a bit bigger, can get more people on board, we can go deeper as well. But
right. So it's kind of a little bit, maybe on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah. We started with Pennywise. It's something that we really enjoyed making. And I think Monsterpalooza is in June this year. We've got our name down, but I'm not sure if we can go. That's still in debate. But Monsterpalooza is like the biggest that we know of, one of the biggest like shows in the US for all things horror. So I think if we do develop something, it'd be aiming towards that show, which if we can't go this year, it'll be next year.
Nice. Well, I'm excited for that Pennywise. At least you have one excited customer. So I actually ordered 2 of them. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, because there's 2 head sculpts. And John, I was actually surprised that there was not a 2-pack for that one where you have 2 different bodies. I thought that would be something that you guys offer. But maybe it's just not a popular enough character to do that,
Yeah, but that's just maybe something we could change down the line.
Right.
See, just that feedback's really important to us. There's no real rules to anything. We just need to listen to what the majority of people want, and then we can take that feedback and say, okay, maybe we should do this.
There we go. Well, Rocketman Chris, thank you so much. Goonies, please. Has there been any discussion about Goonies at all?
No discussion, but I know Iron Studios recently did a 1/10 scale statue from the Goonies. They did Chunk, and what's the other guy?
Dude, it's been so long since I've seen. I don't remember any of them. We need someone in the chat to help us out.
Yeah, Sloth maybe, I think he's called.
Okay.
The Goonies is incredible. I think it'd be amazing to do that, but it's very niche. It's quite like old school 80s stuff, which I think we should do more of. Like I mentioned before, we could do like a Van Damme kickboxer or do some more classic 80s movies. I think it's something we can visit, but it won't be this year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think got time for 1 or 2 more here. Henry's asking, can John speculate on the next few announcements or which figures are furthest in development? I know, John, you talked about this a little bit. I know Harry Potter's probably the next up for pre-order, right?
That's the furthest in development. Like I said, we're waiting for the actor approval. So it could be within, it's hard to say, but that'll probably be the next one. Okay. And then I think after that, we should have maybe one before July, and then we're looking at July to release a couple more because SDCC is what we're working towards.
Right. And as far as production, it's probably Pennywise and Gandalf would be the next two, right?
Yeah, in terms of production, yeah. It should be in order of what we've said it is. And as you raised today, there's been no announcement from Pennywise, and we're looking towards the end of Q1 right now, so I'll follow up with that.
Right.
See if there's any movement.
Perfect. Because I know as far as like, I don't know about every retailer, but Spec Fiction, they listed Q1 to Q2. So you guys are still within that window for Pennywise technically. So, you know, it's, and like you said, that could be the first batch, you know.
Yeah, it's hard for me to, I know I should know, but it's hard to remember. We have so many pre-orders.
Totally understand.
They, if that's the date we said, that's the date they're working very hard to achieve, at least for the first batch.
Right. Yeah, and the last question for the evening, guys, because I know we had John for an hour. Any plans for an Indiana Jones line?
So again, that's Disney, I think.
Right.
So it's going to be really difficult to do. At least it's going to be a few years before we can touch that. Anything from Disney, I think. A lot of changes would have to happen. So we'd love to do it. Anything with Harrison Ford, of course. Later down the line is something we really want to do. Like even like a Blade Runner or something like that would be awesome.
That would be amazing. And last bonus question, Yomo, thank you so much. In addition to the Matrix question, since you guys are doing multiple Lord of the Rings characters, is it possible to do characters like Morpheus, Smith, and Trinity as well? Are you guys going to go deep into the Matrix line?
I think a Morpheus would be awesome.
It would.
Like do the chair with the glasses.
Dude, we need it. We need it, John. And we need Agent Smith
pill,
as well.
Blue pill.
Yeah. Oh, dude, could you imagine a red pill and a blue pill? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think it'd be awesome. But like, I think it's easy. That's why we released the line list maybe too soon. It's so easy to get carried away because we're so passionate about all these movies, all these figures. But to do the quality and to keep the quality that everyone expects, we've got to pace ourselves a little bit. But
right.
I think Lord of the Rings definitely. Matrix, I'll push for that because I personally think it'd be awesome to do Morpheus and Trinity and Agent Smith. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Well, Alistair, thank you so much. Last one. With the DC changes gun, does this change the Wonder Woman release? I don't know if you can speak to that more.
No, shouldn't do.
Okay, so the Wonder Woman release is still on. It's still greenlit. It's good to go.
Yeah.
You guys are producing a prototype.
Yeah, other companies are still re-releasing stuff from the Dark Knight, from the older DC universe and the different versions. I personally don't think it changes anything because if you like those movies, you like those characters, then that's like everyone has their own era, right? It depends on you. Like everyone has their own James Bond, their own Batman. Right. There's no right or wrong. It depends on you. So the new DC might just create a new generation of fans for that. But we or someone else might think, oh, that's not my Batman. My Batman's this guy. So there's still an audience for everyone. So there's no reason for us to change our plans. It just gives us more options later down the line to develop new characters.
Yeah, it's understandable. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much to John. John, we appreciate it. I know the community loves you guys coming on these streams and talking about, the upcoming releases and answering all the questions that collectors have. So, man, I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to talk about before you head out about Queen Studios or InArt? Any updates you want to share?
Not massively. I think, the key thing from our side is that, we did last year, did a lot of talking, especially on the InArt side. I was on a lot of streams.
Yep.
Usually it's when people invite me, I'll just say yes. This year, we just mainly want to listen to what the fans, the collectors are saying. We want to collect that feedback and we want to just continue to build from there. Because the difference where we are this year to last year is we've got something out in the market now. And we've got some real feedback. So we just want to hear your thoughts. If it's a big problem, until everyone tells us about it, we don't know. So we need that feedback. So if it's more magnets around the base for more movement, let us know. We'll look into it. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much for contributing in the chat. I tried to get to as many questions as I could. And I appreciate it, John. We did a speed run there. You answered a lot of questions this evening. Yeah. So we answered a lot. So very impressive, dude. But thank you so much for joining again. And guys, thank you so much for contributing in the chat. I know those jokers, man, congratulations on the first release. Like I said, everyone's really excited about it. I have mine, super excited about it. Can't wait to get more InArt stuff. I love it so much, John, that I'm even considering getting the Batman, even though I don't even really
care about that Pattinson Batman that much. Like I'm just like I want to get the InArt figures just because they're really really good. From the one I have at least. And like I said, I can't wait for my Pennywise. So. And I got Gandalf with you guys, and Aragorn on pre-order. So I think I pre-ordered every figure except the Batman and Bruce Wayne. So yeah,
thanks for the support.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So very excited about what you guys are doing, and as this community. So yeah, man, thank you so much for joining. And hey, even if you don't talk as much, we still know you're around, and you'll pop up every now and then. So
yep, and hopefully see as many as you guys at SDCC as possible.
Dude,
I'm really looking forward to that event. I think that's a big chance, and I know it's really hard to get tickets. If anyone's got tickets, we'll be releasing our booth number once we know it. Probably June we'll start announcing more, and then we want to just meet as many people as possible, get as much feedback, and get involved in the community.
Well, I'm gonna see you there, John. I'm gonna be there. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be excited. Awesome. And I don't know if maybe I'll have to talk to you. Maybe I can do a live stream and just talk to you guys for 5 or 10 minutes or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
but
sounds good. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna roll the outro. I'll catch you in the next stream. Peace out. Bye.